My name's Hannah Dalman. I'm the Senior Director of Partnership Development here at Concordia, and it's my real pleasure to be bringing together patron member Mars and amazing on-the-ground partner World Food Program for an important discussion around food safety and security, particularly in a time of COVID-19. For those of you who have joined our Concordia Live series over the summer months, you know that we've been focusing specifically on how partnerships have been designed or are evolving to address this global pandemic and to ensure that the good and important work that all of us are working on, be it around inclusivity, employment, economic growth, human rights, supply chain security, food security in today's conversation, all of that can continue on as we adjust to this new normal. So I'm really pleased to be bringing these amazing organizations together today for a highlight on how their partnership is shaping and evolving. I'll introduce our speakers. We have Dave Crean. He's joining us from South Cambridge in the UK. He is Vice President of Corporate R&D and Chief Science Officer at Mars, bringing over 30 years of experience in global food security. He led the establishment of the Mars Global Food Safety Center in Beijing, China, which is a collaborative food safety platform designed to capture, generate, and share food safety knowledge globally, and is a lead partner in the IBM Mars Consortium for sequencing the food supply chain. So to summarize, Dave really knows the power of data and information sharing in times of urgency. Sandy Westlake, Sandra, is the head of global private sector partnerships for the United Nations World Food Program and is based in Rome. Partnerships under her leadership have helped deliver resources, expertise, technology, and visibility for World Food Program's work in over 83 countries around the world. So today, World Food Program is recognized as a leading partner in the universal effort towards achieving the global goals, and Sandy is really bringing a lot of that leadership.
Muy complicado.
And we have Samir Ibrahim as our moderator. Samir is the CEO and co-founder of Sun Culture, and he's joining us from Nairobi today. Sun Culture develops and commercializes innovative technology that supports smallholder farming households, contributing to poverty alleviation and global food security. He's also actively shaping the Kenyan political landscape as it pertains to food security in partnership with the Kenyan government and international partners like World Food Program. Before we move to today's discussion, a few bits of Zoom housekeeping rules. We're all experts at digital convening right now, but it's useful to go over them, especially as we kind of dig in deep and start thinking about what the Concordia Annual Summit will look like this fall as a digital program. So if you've not yet saved the dates on your calendars, September 21 to 25, we will be virtually bringing people together to talk about partnerships for positive social impact. With today's Zoom, we will all come on muted and with our video blocked, but during the Q&A, you're welcome to unmute and share your video so we can see your face and associate it with the question. This discussion will be recorded and available live on Concordia's website post-event. The Q&A session will not be recorded. So this is a special benefit for our members and the partners of World Food Program and Mars who are joining us today. So that's your chance to ask the pressing question without being digital online. There is a chat feature at the bottom of your screen. We hope you use that. We want you sharing who you are, how you're associated with this conversation, introducing yourself, and if you have questions, please put those into the chat feature because that will shape the Q&A at the end of the session. And at the very end of the session, at the 30-minute mark, we'll go into breakout rooms if your schedule permits. And this is a great chance for you to network, share your own work, and to engage and react to the discussion we had today. And it's a really great space for us to kind of virtually come together, which is, of course, at the onus of what Concordia is doing. I believe that is the most imperative bits. If there's anything I forgot, I will add it to that chat feature, so keep an eye on it. And with that, I'm so happy to turn over to Dave to kick us off.
Thanks very much, Hannah. And it's a real pleasure to be here today and joining this meeting. I thought I'd just give an overview of what we're doing in food safety and how we got to collaborate with the World Food Programme. Fundamentally, at Mars, we believe everyone has the right to safe food. We also believe that food safety is pre-competitive, that we must share our research, knowledge, and experience. New food safety threats are constantly emerging through factors such as global warming, increased globalization of trade, and changes in agricultural practices and food production. As a global food manufacturer, we have a clear responsibility to ensure food safety. But we also recognise that no one entity can tackle these challenges alone. To facilitate a collaborative approach, one rooted in fostering trust and sharing, we opened the Mars Global Food Safety Centre in September 2015. Through the centre, we have created a capability to undertake leading scientific research, training, and convening key stakeholders in the food supply chain. Our vision is a global systems approach where regulators, academia, industry partners, and non-government organisations come together to share relevant data and critical insights to develop the latest scientific capabilities in areas such as genomics, bioinformatics, and data analytics. As well, we debate, we discuss, sharing hopes, fears, and aspirations. We collaborate with more than 25 partner organisations and academic institutions to share knowledge, exchange best practice, generating new insights with a focus on improving the resilience of supply chains around the world. Our partners include the United Nations World Food Programme. Mars has partnered with WFP since 2015 to provide scientific and strategic guidance and training on food safety and quality assurance to help improve the resilience of supply chains, especially across Africa. We approached WFP and asked, how can we help? We shared our understanding, insights, and knowledge. We wanted to be there to answer the questions that are helpful to WFP. Sometimes we don't have all the answers, but by leveraging our networks, we can usually find the answer. Over time, I think we've learned how to work together. I think the key to our success has been making ourselves available and responsive. As a business, we operate to our 5 principles, which embody who we are and how we work. What we get from the relationship with WFP is a chance to put those 5 principles into action and to allow many of our associates who are passionate about wanting to make a difference to get involved. We have drawn on our expertise in food quality and safety assurance to advise on WFP's internal process and help improve the resilience of supply chains. Through the partnership, we are helping WFP develop training programs and drive the internal culture around food quality and safety, so all staff members around the world can better understand the issues and the critical role quality assurance plays in our work. We have supported WFP to develop guidelines for applying industry best practices, as well as protocols to better manage local and regional suppliers. Mars also supports World Food Programme to prepare for potential food incidents and how to respond when necessary. Mars recently donated $2 million to WFP's COVID-19 logistics response to help move vital supplies for the global health community. Although cash is essential to WFP to operate, we also feel that in-kind support is often just as valuable. We believe this partnership and collaboration is even more important today. The latest threat to global health, the COVID-19 pandemic, is impacting global economies, communities, and food systems. What we're hearing from our key partners and stakeholders is that the virus is exacerbating and potentially accelerating global food supply challenges. For example, due to significant logistics issues, availability of resources, and particularly in Africa, access to good quality food storage. These seemingly mundane events destabilize food systems and have the potential to be catastrophic. Hunger and COVID-19 are a deadly combination. The World Food Programme figures show that the global pandemic could mean extreme hunger for up to 265 million people this year, twice the number who were already suffering from acute hunger before COVID-19. This is a devastating situation, which World Food Programme leader David Beasley has referred to as what could be a problem of biblical proportions. Once again, the people who suffer most are the most vulnerable. Out of the COVID crisis, we have seen responses demonstrating unprecedented collaboration and great examples of partnership. We need the same sorts of behaviours to urgently protect the global food supply chain and food systems. We must work together to ensure safe food for all. And those were my comments, so I just wanted to throw on the table to help get this discussion going. So thank you very much.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Let's turn to the discussion. Samir, you want to kick us off?
Absolutely. And it's a pleasure to be here. It's a treat to be moderating between Dave and Sandy, two amazing organizations doing amazing things in these unprecedented times. Dave, you touched right now on how recent events have destabilized food systems and that hunger and COVID-19 are a deadly combination. There's no evidence to date that viruses cause respiratory illness being transmitted via food or food packaging. Coronavirus cannot multiply in food. What was it like being a decision maker at a food company with so many unknowns around the virus in the beginning days? What was it like before it became a bit more clear about how the virus spreads? What was the feeling and how did you make decisions at that time?
Yeah, thanks, Samir. It's a great question. I mean, we all talk about the potential for these sorts of things happening. You know, there's always been the potential for a significant global viral pandemic, whether it's a new flu. You know, we're all familiar with what happened in 1918 and Spanish flu. So we kind of had those conversations. I think we were watching with horror what was unfolding in China. And we became, you know, very nervous about the potential for this virus to cause havoc, not only in the food supply chains, but generally in society. When we were thinking about our response, the first thing that we had to think about is, could we protect our associates, the people who work at Mars, the people who do the jobs that we want them to do every day? Were we in a position to be able to make sure that they could carry on safely? And that was the first thing that we were thinking about. And, you know, with something that's new, trying to work out what's real, what's not real, there's lots of different amounts of data coming in. And, you know, in this COVID response, I mean, the sharing of data has been phenomenal, but in itself has created quite a challenge. You know, papers are being published without peer review. Some of the reports that are coming out, it's hard to distinguish what's true, what may not be true, what may survive review, and do we really have enough data to base a lot of the decisions on? You know, we're very lucky, I think, at Mars to have some great people, great resources, and coming together to discuss our response, to discuss what we might do, and to ensure that, as far as possible, number one, our associates are safe, but number two, we're a food production company. And we wanted to be able to supply our products around the world. And, you know, people know us for candy, but also, you know, we supply, you know, quite a lot of rice. We've got some other products that are kind of favorites, ambient stable favorites in pantries. We wanted to make sure that people could access our products. And so putting in place the right agility, but once again, not compromising safety was key. So all of these things came together, Samir, and, you know, you've seen the data, you've seen the amount of information, you've seen the amount of misinformation. And so it was a constant review, a constant challenge to ourselves about making sure that we had the right things in place, that we could operate, first of all, safely for our associates, and then meet the needs of our consumers. And I'm happy to say that for the most part, we've managed to keep supply uninterrupted. Obviously, there were a couple of parts of the world where, due to local government requirements, we closed down, but that was temporary and we managed to start up again. But we're working in our supply chains to try and keep them moving. You know, it's really important that we are taking the materials that farmers are producing, that primary producers are producing, because if we can't take those materials, there's not a lot of else places where they might go and they get wasted. So that's the kind of things that we've been juggling and balancing. But the number one was making sure our associates are safe.
Thanks, Dave. And it's quite the juggling act. You mentioned food safety, and Sandra, I know food safety is important to both organizations. How is food safety valued internally at the WFP? And how do you think COVID-19 has impacted your approach to food quality and safety?
Well, I mean, to begin with, food is core, I mean, to what we do. It's in our name. So WFP takes food safety extremely seriously, which means is one of the main reasons we partner with an organization like Mars. You know, each year we provide a variety of food assistance to more than 80 million people, vulnerable people around the world. And those numbers, as basically, as Dave alluded to, are going up. And that's from direct distribution of commodities to school meals that use fresh local ingredients, which also then means that food quality and safety is even more precarious and more important. So with Mars support, WFP has built a really strong food quality and safety unit in our headquarters. And this is helping to drive a strong culture of food quality and safety across WFP and with other stakeholders. So we're not just limiting this to WFP, it's also the others that that we're working with as well. And this team is really trying to drive forward that food quality and safety throughout the year with WFP leadership, all of our staff. We're supporting our regions, our country offices with new guidance and training that Mars helped us create, that we're working with together. So absolutely, we take this seriously, and it's the private sector that really helped us think about food quality and safety differently when we moved, I would say, from being that traditional food aid organization to a food assistance organization, and we had to take food quality and safety very seriously.
Thank you. And you touched a bit on the partnership with Mars, and Dave also shared sort of the beginning stages of your partnership. I think this is a fantastic partnership. I think this is a marriage of two amazing organizations. That I think this is a sort of the gold standard of how partnerships should work. How has this partnership had to change or evolve in the wake of COVID-19, Sandra?
How's it had to change or evolve? You know what, actually, I think what it did is that it really showed us the importance of having good systems in place. Because the truth of the matter is, we were already working with Mars on, we only work with partners when we're looking to solve a problem or a need that the organization really needs to bring in expertise to help us do our work better. And I think the great thing is, like you said, this is a marriage, this is a partnership. It takes time to trust and learn each other's cultures. But we have a lot of similarities and we have differences. But what we can do is in an emergency, even basically pivot from what might have been our original program of work, bring it forward to Mars and say, how can you help us out? So it really shows the importance of having good systems in place where you can call on your partners to move away from what might have been your original goal or your original sort of need that you wanted to tackle together. And I think that's what COVID-19 has shown us, the importance of partnerships to be able to pivot maybe from one thing and move to something else. And of course, look at what we're doing today. We're doing a lot more things virtually, and we're trying to figure out how are we going to address the challenges on the ground, maybe from a distance as well.
Dave, with that perspective, Sandra talked a bit about your existing relationship and having a strong relationship. And how did Mars's relationship with the World Food Program enable Mars to make it one of its primary partners for COVID-19? What did the internal decision-making discussions look like? And how did your former relationship, from Mars's perspective, build that necessary support?
Well, Samir, I'd love to tell you that we went through a very fine process. And this is down to a small number of people we worked with. The reality is we've got huge respect for the World Food Program. They are an amazing organization. And so when we were looking to what's the contribution we could make, we wanted to make an effective contribution. We wanted to be sure that when we made that contribution, it would make a difference. It was a very natural conclusion, actually, that the World Food Program was right up there in the consideration set. And, it was a really very straightforward conversation that was very quick. And I think it took, about 10, 15 minutes on the Mars side. And the following day, I think about another 10 minutes with the World Food Program to say, hey, this is what we're thinking about doing. How could this help? A quick conversation about it. And it was agreed and done. And actually, it makes me incredibly proud that we could do that. But it speaks to the fact that we've built trust. We understand the World Food Program. We know what they do. We know how they do it, and kind of we're a bit in awe of the great job they do. Actually,
it sounds overnight successes take a very long time, and I know it was longer than a 25 minutes on the phone, and I know there's a lot of shared values and trust, but Sandra, I'm sure there are a lot of people on this webinar that would like to work with the WFP and would like to partner with the World Food Program. What types of partnerships does WFP need to build to scale its impact and make the biggest difference? And I know it'll take longer than 25 minutes. But what does that look like? And how can people on the call, how can they think about this?
No, I mean, the thing is, that's something that we could spend hours talking about because we're so passionate about it. And I think that WFP is unique, that we've been in the business of working with the private sector really for maybe, you know, almost 2 decades. But we're unique in the fact that we've brought business in close to help us solve problems. And I think private sector partners like Mars are critical to boosting WFP's operational capacity and ability to innovate and bring new solutions to our ongoing challenges. That's really why we do what we do with the private sector. We partner with companies in a lot of different industries, including food and life sciences, tech, logistics, given our work on the global humanitarian response, retail. But we're always looking for new partners to apply basically their unique expertise to solve a global problem. I can tell you, I've also had companies that have come in usually with a solution, looking for a problem, and that won't work. It just, you know, it doesn't work that way. It really is addressing the needs on the ground. And we want we want there to be business benefit for the company as well. Otherwise, they can't justify the relationship to their stakeholders. So we're real on that. And I think that our colleagues, our technical colleagues that work with Dave and others, really see the advantage of having a partner come in and roll up their sleeves and to share knowledge that we could never buy, quite frankly. So we know that partnerships are time intensive. We're looking for folks that are interested in dedicating and committing to the long game, because our contexts on the ground are tricky. And you need to be patient, because it's not like going to market in the UK or going to market in the US. There needs to be a different view on that. And that patience is part of the cultural differences sometimes, where you have to meet that divide. But we've been so lucky in that response for really having partners like Mars that are dedicated to working with us over the long haul to try to find solutions to global problems.
And with sort of the come fix a problem, don't come with a solution looking for a problem. And feel free to pass on this question, because you could take hours answering this. Are there any problems that you're looking for more partners to help with right now?
I mean, our problems, of course, we always would look into what are our key areas that WFP basically addresses. We're in the food space, we're in the logistics space, we're in the nutrition space, you know, we're in the tech space. So it's really working with those technical colleagues and asking, what is it that you can't buy? Because quite frankly, we buy a lot of services from the private sector. It's not just about partnership for us. And what is it that we're not going to build? When you think about it, when the day is done, it is the private sector's job to be best in class in their industry. That is what their goal is to invest year on year to do just that. So we're looking to bring in that expertise, like I said, in a way that we would never, ever be able to buy that expertise. And so it really is about how then are those challenges and problems going to turn into something that's going to benefit our beneficiaries in the end? Are we being more effective in our service? Are we being more efficient in our service? Our end customer, the people that we serve. That is ultimately what we have in mind when we go into partnership.
I think that's a great lesson. Keep the end user in mind, keep the beneficiary in mind. If those values align, things will work out.
Absolutely.
I have a last question for you too. What's the call to action? What 3 things do you want people to take away from this conversation, even if they weren't said? What would you like your partners and potential partners to take away? Dave, I'll start with you, because I just went in with Sandra right now.
So I think honestly we need to, what we're seeing with COVID-19 is that the flaws and frailty of the existing supply chains are being really exposed. And what we have today isn't good enough. So number one, what we have today needs to be improved. It's not really fit for purpose. Number two, the power of collaborations. No one entity or group can solve for this. Everybody's got to be involved. And I love what Sandy said, you know, don't come with a solution looking for a problem. Let's look and really understand what it is we need to fix.
Yes.
And then work together on that so that we can fix it. And I think, you know, number three, this has got to be about a mutual relationship. Mutuality is one of our principles, and things that are mutual endure. If there's a benefit for all the people involved, these things endure and can go from strength to strength. And so what's the mutuality? How can we drive mutuality in these partnerships so that we can make sure they survive? They would be the three things that I'd be looking for.
Fantastic. Thank you. Sandra.
Over to me, and I'm going to do this as a shout out to the partners that work, my technical colleagues in particular, that work with Dave and the team. And I know they would want me to say that food quality and safety is everyone's business. This is what they're driving home every day, and it's imperative that stakeholders and partners work together to ensure everyone's food is safe and nutritious. And I think we've seen how important that is in light of COVID-19. And that back in what Dave just said as well, that partnerships are an incredibly powerful way to bring change in the world. And we believe that at our core. And then last but not least, that when it comes to working with the private sector, WFP has a really successful track record over the last 20 years about bringing innovation and working with partners. And we understand that business has a business imperative that they have to meet, and we have no problem with that. Because I know sometimes there are some cultural divides in that response. And we know that business needs to meet their needs. And if they can help us better serve the people we serve, then it's a win for everybody.
Thank you. And thank you both for your insights. It has been a delight sharing this conversation with you. And I believe we're going over to Q&A now.
Perfect.
Great. Thank you, everyone, for today's discussion. It was very rich with ideas, best practices, and points of origin when you're thinking about designing a partnership, which I so appreciate. Starting at square one and really thinking about the problem you're looking to solve and building the partnership for that, as opposed to coming in top down with a solution. We are open for questions, and so if you have something you'd like to ask, you may either put it in the chat feature or send it directly to myself, and I'm happy to read it out. We can also unmute you and ask, so we get a bit of dynamism. We have a time for about 1 or 2 questions here. And in the absence of one coming over, I will just take a Concordia prerogative to ask one. I'd love to go deeper into this really great piece about the designing a solution or designing a partnership for the needs of the ground. And what does that look like in the initial email or conversation? And I'd like to hear both from Sandy and Dave, because you're coming from different perspectives and angles when you're thinking about a partnership, different needs, different wants, different urgencies and timelines, right? Is there a successful tactic that you've employed or seen employed that cuts through that noise, that kind of gets that first meeting on the books to discuss this? If you're truly talking about building something, rather than saying, I have a solution for you, right? How do you start that conversation? What's worked for you both?
Dave, do you want to take that first, or should I?
Oh, after you, Sally, then I'll build, hopefully.
Sure. I think, what it also depends on the industry. I would first look at what's the industry, and how does this industry match up with what part of the house within WFP, and also talk to my technical colleagues about what it is that they're looking for. One of the things that I think that we've learned really well over the years too is we don't say yes to everybody. We really, and it's something that we try to drive home also with our technical colleagues, is that we need to make sure that when they're going to take on a partnership as well, that they have the resources. And what I mean about that is often we forget that your staff, your team is a resource. Mm-hmm. If you can't absorb it, if you can't service it, if that is, instead of the idea that it's so great that company X is interested in us, we can get very flattered, about that there's a a Fortune 500 company knocking on our door. If it's not going to address that need, if you're not going to be in the long haul, it's also on our side, then it's not going to be successful. So it's really involves a lot of dialogue with internal stakeholders so that we can help facilitate that conversation on the other side with that member of industry in order to move something forward.
That's a great point. Dave, anything else to add, to build on?
So, one of the things that we were thinking just, before we reached out to World Food Programme is we were looking at our factories, and with raw materials coming to our factories in developed and developing countries, we were horrified at the amount of materials that we were rejecting for aflatoxin. And aflatoxin is a fungal toxin, as you know. It's pretty widely distributed, has some terrible impacts, and recently has been linked to stunting in children, as well as being, having acute issues. And as we were looking at aflatoxin, we decided really that actually we need to increase the scope of people's understanding. It's been around for a long time, but we're not really being effective in controlling it. And so we thought, well, actually, perhaps if we go and talk to some other people who've got an interest in these kinds of supply chains, maybe we can start to have a better conversation, and maybe we can start to get more action around controlling aflatoxin. And that's where we started. And then it took about 2 conversations and a series of introductions, and we were talking to World Food Programme about, hey, what are you guys thinking, and can we help? Is this something you've got a problem with? And that's where the conversation starts. And then, once you start talking about something of mutual interest, it very quickly grows from there. But for us, this idea of safe food for all, and from a mutuality point of view, if we can address that, we're making the world's food supply safer, and ours are going to be safer as well. The stuff we use is going to be safer. So kind of everybody wins.
Right, that mutuality you mentioned in the past.
That mutuality, yeah.
Well, I think that's a great place to stop today's conversation, remembering that this great partnership that is now evolving and transformational in terms of how World Food Programme is able to operate and navigate in times of COVID-19. It started with a call. It's about aflatoxin, right? And from there, the systems, that conversation, that trust, and that syncing up of mutuality has allowed it to grow into something much larger and more beneficial to all parties. So with that, I want to say thank you so much to our speakers, to Sandy, to Dave, to Samir. We will be going into breakout rooms and able to then discuss and learn a little bit more about what everybody on this call is doing with regards to food security and food safety, and hopefully have a continued great conversation. So thank you again to our speakers. If you're, as an attendee, if you're not able to join this breakout session, you can just exit out of the space. It's certainly not required, but we do hope that people can continue to chat and share their work. All right. Have a wonderful day. Stay safe, everyone, and wash your hands.
Thank you.
People ought to be receiving a notification inviting them to a breakout room. If you're able and willing to join, we encourage you to do so. And with that, I'll let Dave and Sandy hop off because I believe they both have future meetings or additional meetings as they close out their day. Thank you, everyone. Have a great one.